All right, people, we are back. We did not return on Sunday as promised, but like everything with the island, the answer is not exactly where, but when. We are back, season 5, episode 1, Because You Left. And now, Luke, let's just say that the doors have been blown off, to say the least. Any preconceived notions, anything about what the show was before, because even season 4, short as it was, fast as it was, action-packed as it was still holding on to a little bit of pretense. They were still on the island. They were still trying to figure out, if they were getting rescued or not. You had these flash forwards to basically connect the dots and be like, okay, some people made it off the island, but who did not make it off the island? And now we have all those answers. And now here we are, the season 5 premiere, picking up 3 years later, sort of, immediately after the events of the flash forward.
Sort of is doing a lot of work.
Is doing a lot of work in this episode, to say the least. So this episode aired 16 years ago in January or February, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, of 2009. Well, first,
17 years ago.
17? Fuck, wow, we're getting old. What are your thoughts in general on this episode? In terms of like how it feels different from all of the premieres that came before it. It feels even more of a race against time. I'm in a competition with myself to see how many time puns I can crack in this one episode alone. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it feels like the most momentum heavy one, because up until this point, all the season premieres feel like, okay, this is where everyone is, and these are all the new characters we're gonna meet. And then for once, we actually don't have any new characters.
Correct. We have no new characters introduced in this first episode. And
since that, we've been sort of following the flash forwards from the last one. We already kind of know where everyone is. So really, it's just following that, and really the more sort of setup thing is happening on the island, whereas on the not island, it's just continuation of what's been happening. So it already has more momentum than your other season openers, and I'm just like, okay, great. We're like in the third act of the show, essentially.
We really are. So we really are. And the show is openly acknowledging that. We still have 2 more seasons to get through, but the show is very much aware of it. It's like, okay, this is for the people who have been with this show for a while now. We're not pausing to hold any new audience members' hands. We're like, we are full stop, full blown.
If you're still here, like,
if you're still here, exactly. If the previous ridiculousness that's happened on this show hasn't driven you away, but they are full on action packed adventure mode. There's the 2 most notable things about this episode for me is that there was no focus character in this episode. Every premiere up until this point had a focus character. Obviously the pilot being what it was. Seasons 2 and 3 premieres were focused on Jack. Season 3 is focused on season 4 premiere was focused on Hurley. So the most notable thing is, because, like you were saying, because the show now has the confidence to basically tell its audience, hey, we know that you guys have been watching up until this point, so we're just going to throw you into the deep end without any help beforehand. They do a little bit in terms of, helping you recap it. Once Sawyer is back on the beach and he's like, wait, where's the boat? But for the most part, this is going...
How long a gap was there between end of season 4 and start of season 5, do you know?
So we should probably start to break it down, right? So obviously we know that the flash forwards have been occurring all throughout season 4. So as of where we are right now, we know that the island...
like in terms of release. Like,
it was just about a year in between. Okay. So season 4 was spring of 2008. Season 5 is spring of 2009. So though they had finally gotten a consistent release schedule down after the hubbub around season 3, where season 3, there was like a 4-month break between the first 6 episodes and then the rest of the season, which aired in the spring of 2007. I think that went all the way up until June, I want to say. But by the time we got to season 4, that was where we had really like settled on an official schedule. Like, okay, Lost is going to air all of its episodes in the spring. And even though season 4 was the shortest season, cut short by the writer's strike, seasons 5 and 6 also had a reduced episode count. We've only got about 17 episodes each. So even though we're still spending more time, like, we're still moving at that breakneck pace that we had gotten used to in season 4. So on island, right, the people who were stranded on the island, because that's the other big too also is, even though the season 4 finale lets us know what happens in terms of like how the Oceanic Six got off, we still had like an entire half a cast to be like, okay, well, what happened to them? And this episode it does its work in terms of, like, I would say being pretty evenly spaced out, but I would say the majority of the story of this episode is focused on what happened to the people that were stranded left on the island, what happened after Ben turned the donkey wheel. We saw that big white flash, the island disappeared, but after season 4 we didn't know what had happened with it. Now we're in this episode and they pretty quickly tell you that, be like, yeah, we are traveling through time or the island is traveling through time. And like there's a little bit of a disconnect there between certain of the people, because it feels like the island survivors seem to be trapped, or sorry, the Oceanic Six survivors, and then the Kahana survivors, Daniel, Charlotte, and Miles, who stayed on the island, seem to be traveling with it, versus the native others do not. Because as we see
Yeah.
with Locke in this episode, Locke interacts with multiple different characters who we've already interacted with, but throughout at different points in time.
Yeah, we're learning the rules essentially. We're
Yes.
going to see exactly how lenient they are with their own rules, how much they break them. Because although at the beginning, in typical Lost fashion, it opens with something completely, you think it's unrelated. You're thinking, oh,
Yes.
it's someone we know, maybe
Yes,
someone
we
we
didn't
don't
even
know.
touch on the
First of all,
opening-
it
the
flicks to
opening scene,
8:15 a.m. I'm like, 8:15.
Hey.
And I'm like, oh, I think I know who this is. And then he sits down,
Yep.
and I don't remember his name, but it's a
uh,
man. It's a man in all.
Dr. Pierre Chang is I believe his actual name, despite the fact that he uses a misnomer on every one of the Dharma videos. Yes, the opening sequence is we're following Dr. Pierre Chang as he's going to make one of the videos for the Dharma Initiative. We open with the Dharma Initiative. It's the first time we've actually seen them in person, not in a flashback, not in a video. We actually see them in person. He's called away from the meeting because his team at the Orchid Station during the construction of the Orchid has stumbled upon something. You see an X-ray, it's the donkey wheel, and then he yells at the worker to be like, under no circumstances do we explore near this area. This could give us, finally the ability to control time. The worker scoffs at him a little bit. And he's like, if we unleash that energy, it could lead to catastrophic results. And then as he's leaving, he bumps into Daniel. And so already that's cluing us in to be like, okay, like we are going to explore something with the Dharma Initiative this season.
Yeah.
And
of course, my question is this past Daniel or is this future Daniel? So I'm like, okay, great. This is like porn to me.
And you were wondering, and you were wondering where this show could have possibly gone, as if this show has not earned your loyalty in terms of just trust us, we will have something for you. But at the very least, that's just the opening scene, right? And unfortunately, that won't get paid off for the next couple of episodes. But at the very least, this episode is setting us up for be like, okay, on island, they got to figure out how to stop these time shifts, because even though we're just at the beginning, we can assume that, given what we learned about last season with the constant, people traveling through time at this rapid succession rate is not going to be good for people, especially as a scene at the end once Daniel sees Charlotte start to get the nosebleed and understandably immediately starts freaking out, being like, oh no, like not again. Meanwhile, off island, the remainder of the Oceanic Six is going to be gathered by Jack and Ben, presumably in an attempt to get back to the island, because as is said, both on the island by Richard DeLocke and off island, they'll be like, yeah, something, the underlying theme you could say of this episode is some things have only gone wrong for the Oceanic Six ever since they left. Kate's getting a letter from some lawyer demanding a paternity test for Aaron.
Which I'm like, about time.
Yeah, right? It's like, I'm amazed. It took 3 years for them to get this. Hurley and Saeed managed to make it to the safe house that Saeed was trying to take them to, but they immediately get attacked by two guys. And of course,
they're in like a Michael Mann movie or something.
It's awesome. It's like continuing like the Jason Bourne thing that Saeed was on last season. Hurley drops the very meta line of, oh man, we never should have left the island. And Jack and Ben are about to begin their quest in order to reunite everybody with the coffin containing Locke's body. And then they immediately see on the TV, oh yeah, Hurley has been broken out of the insane asylum. And they're like, well, that already gets our plan off to a great hit. So that's already showing that, like, okay, things are obviously not going as planned. But again, the vast concentration of the plot is on the island, where basically everybody left over on the island from the Kahana mission starts, witnessing the flashes. Sawyer and Juliet reunite with everybody on the beach. Bernard comes in freaking out, being like, where's our camp? Where's our camp? It's disappeared. Daniel comes back from the U-boat. You have the line, once the first flash happens, and Daniel's like, oh, we must have still been inside the radius, showing that Daniel always knows
like,
more.
How much does he know? And especially from now, I'm like, okay, every time he says something, it's like,
we need to pay attention. As if Daniel wasn't already established as being a very important character towards understanding the island in the last season. Now it's really on, because literally, when they start trekking inland towards the Orchid, and Daniel's like, look, we have to get, towards what's left of the Swan. Daniel's like, look, we have to go. And of course, Sawyer, who is shirtless this whole episode too, which in a very hilarious fashion, season. This episode is also, I feel like, a little bit self-aware about the fact that it's like, okay, we know you didn't get enough of Sawyer last season. Here is us making up for lost time. So that you got a little bit of that.
Literally lost time.
Literally lost time. There's another one. Again, how many puns can I make throughout this season? But yeah, basically Daniel finally is able to let them know and come to the conclusion that yes, we are moving through time. He uses the metaphor of it's like stops on a record, basically, you know, where it's like the island has become untethered and is now drifting through time, essentially, and we have to figure out a way to stop it and reset it, essentially, at least in terms of like his explanation to Sawyer, aka the audience, who are very clearly questioning what the hell is going on here. So couple things of note. One, Avengers Endgame stole its entire time travel strategy from this show, as if Lost wasn't already the most apparent thing that has been the influence of everything in pop culture. We've already established that, like, okay, Christopher Nolan basically got all of Interstellar from The Constant, Tenet, in terms of
what's happened,
inversion structure, what happened. Whatever happened.
It hasn't been built yet.
Literally,
like, it hasn't happened
of an
yet.
episode this season, like we are just already seeing that, like, oh yeah, as if Lost wasn't, as if we didn't already figure out that Lost was the most influential show of the century. Perhaps this episode, this season, is basically confirming it. That like. It's so interesting because at the time, right, Lost was coming off of an entire decade of things that were already trying to throw the normal time travel story mechanics out the window. You know, famously a couple of years before this, ironically, the same year that Lost premiered, you had the Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher, which was also trying to do something similar, trying to, you know, break the whole time loop, introduce a paradox sort of thing, you know, because up until this point, time travel stories have pretty much only ever been, yeah, you're stuck in this loop and you can't change anything about the past. Now it's like, oh, we're traveling throughout time because the island, it's not like a cohesive, I guess, circle, you could say. They're bouncing around to various and assorted different points. We haven't seen all of the points yet, but given Locke's interactions in this episode, we can presume that we are going to be visiting many different figures from throughout the vast island history that has been established up until this point.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm already like, okay, I'm gonna have to rewatch the show like immediately after it ends because I'll probably missed everything because like those bodies in the caves. I'm telling you, it's one of them. I don't know who, but it's one of them
around. I mean, I feel like the most obvious example of that is not of all the island people who stayed is not with the beach survivors, but with Locke, because Locke, who is off on his own, you know, man. Poor Locke, he just cannot catch a fucking break. Where season 4 ended, he had been made in charge of the others by Ben. He's the new leader of the island. He finally achieved everything that he wanted. He's finally met up with the others. He made peace. Then the flash happens. The others disappear. He's wandering around being like, what the hell just happened? You know? And then all of a sudden he sees the plane, you know, that contained Echo's brother and the Nigerian drug smugglers crash land on the island. Immediately he's like, okay, something's going on here. He tries to find the plane. 2 more flashes happen. Now the plane's crash land, you know, he falls down, gets cornered by Ethan, of all people. He's like, what the hell is going on? He tries to tell Ethan, look, I've been made the new leader of the others by Ben Linus. And Ethan's like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Which like real. Like if I heard that.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. No, you know, knowing what we know about Ethan. Again, the show this season, it has become very, very self-aware of its history. And this is the season that is like, okay, we are paying homage to our own history now. Everything, all the little loose Easter eggs and tidbits that we set up throughout about the island's lore and history and all the people who have come to the island in the past. This is the season where we're all setting it up and where we're all paying it off. So Ethan is shot Locke in the leg. What's it called? Another flash happens. Locke is then found by Richard, but who knows if this is the Richard that he met up with in the past. And Richard tells him 2 crucial things after he digs the bullet out of his leg. He's like, look, Locke, I don't have time to explain. Again, very classic method of, okay, we're not going to sit down and explain everything to you because we simply do not have time because these flashes are preventing it, because a flash could happen and the person who you're talking to could be gone in the next scene. So Richard digs the bullet out of Locke's leg, gives him a compass, being like, when you see me again, I'm not going to know who you are. So you have to, you're going to give this compass and I'm giving it to you now to me as proof that I know who you are. And it's like, you need to do 2 things. Like, everybody who left the island, you need to bring them back because that's the only way that you're going to stop these flashes. And in order to do that, you're going to have to die. So 2 very, very cryptic things that Lost will inevitably
It's quite a external conflict he's given him there. It's like, you have to give everyone and you have to die. But
even though this is the time travel, you know, looping, you know, it's very sci-fi concentrated season, they still have those elements of, the predestination, the chosen one, the having to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. All of that is still very much there and being introduced in terms of what Locke's latest journey and servitude of the island is going to be this season.
Yeah, I think it's as you alluded that if this is the sort of hard sci-fi season. It's kind of hard. It's a magic island that jumps through time. It's not that hard. This is a sci-fi season. The last one's going to be the more mystic or mythological season. So I think is that and that's exactly what Lost has been so far. For every mechanical or sciencey concept, there's also like, oh yeah, there's a smoke monster that does things and just shows up in places. So it's that balance that's really hitting good so far. And I guess one thing I was wondering, okay, we've had flashbacks, 3 seasons of them. We had flash forwards, the season of them. Like, what the hell are they going to do now? And now the flashbacks are the story, which I'm like,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
perfect. That's like the exact continuation that you have to do.
Also, not to mention the fact that I think that this is the only season of the show where there is really like no concentrated timeline, because the first 3 seasons all took place in and around 2004, right? Season 4 takes place across 2 separate timelines. The on-island stuff is still continuing past season 3. It takes place in 2004, versus the flash forwards are taking place between when they get rescued in 2004 to 3 years later in 2007, because we know that when Ben reached the mainland after he spun the donkey wheel, that was 2005. So he'd flash forward a year to the mainland, and then everything that was happening with the Oceanic Six in terms of that closed out both season 3 and season 4. Jack growing the beard, losing his mind, being reunited with Ben, them discovering the revelation that Locke had died. All of that is in 2007. So we still have a lot of ground to cover, but we know for a fact that the off-island stuff is in 2007. It's been 3 years, while the on-island stuff, they're bouncing around. They're not only those events. So it's irrelevant. They're like, time is no longer a factor here, ultimately. So we have one major plot line that ends the episode, though, where after Daniel has gone out of his way to explain to everybody that, like, you can't interfere, you can't change anything in the past, because once they flash again on the island, they discover that, the beach survivors, so that being Sawyer, Juliet, Miles, Daniel, and Charlotte, discover that the Swan is now rebuilt despite having been blown up. And so
very
Sawyer
nostalgic
tries to get it.
To see the hatch again.
Very
It's
nostalgic.
like...
Yeah, Sawyer tries to get in touch with Desmond. Daniel tells him, you can't do it. You can't do it. He finally gets them to leave. But before he does, he knocks on the door. Desmond comes out dressed with the gun. And Daniel's like, look, Desmond, I can't explain anything. This is like the 4th time we've heard this episode. And we're like, we're sick of this. Just get to the next thing. And Daniel is like, look, Desmond, you don't know me yet, but you're special. You're immune to the time travel thing. I can't explain how, but in the future, I need you to remember this. Is like, I need you to go to Oxford. I need you to find my mother. Her name is, and then the flash happens. And then present day Desmond, oh my God, poor Desmond. We thought he was off island. We thought he was escaped. He finally reunited with Penny. Turns out, nope. The island, once again, is not done with Desmond. The island giveth, and the island taketh away, as per usual. He wakes up. It is on a boat with Penny. They're presumably vacationing in some exotic European hotspot. He realizes that it's a memory, and immediately he's like, all right, I'm back. I'm back, brother. I'm here to give, to undertake my next side quest. So this episode already once again establishes that, once again, Desmond seems to be whatever is happening on the island with the time travel stuff. It has been established since season 3, when the Swan originally exploded. Whatever goes on with the island time travel stuff, the electromagnetic energy, whatever it is, Desmond is immune. Desmond is the key. He is going to somehow be involved in reuniting all the Oceanic Six and helping them get back to the island, and presumably, possibly with helping to stop the island from shifting through time. Once again, Desmond is always the key going forward. So what did you think of that last little bit reveal? You were like, okay, well, Desmond has to be involved in this somehow if this is going to be time travel.
Yeah, I guess going back to the constant last season, it ended with Faraday going through his notebook and said, Desmond will be my constant. I've been waiting for that to like come up again. I was like, it's going to show up again. And here it is. So I don't know, how long has he been, has he known Desmond? It gets confusing if you try and think about it.
Well, if we remember again about the constant, the whole thing is that Desmond, again, we're kind of like ignoring the whole time paradox rules. Faraday had already met Desmond in 96 when he's flashing, when he's was flashing back and forth. So that would presumably, we can assume that was the beginning of Faraday's quest to eventually get to the island. So there is already this established connection, again, through timey-wimey mechanics between Faraday and Desmond. So the fact that Desmond doesn't immediately shoot him, he's obviously like, do I know you? Because he obviously can't remember Faraday, because honestly, given if I had been through as many time jumbling scenarios as Desmond had, my memories would probably be a blur, because I wouldn't even be able to trust it, because I'm like, I don't even know what's a memory, what's real, what actually happened from this time, whatnot, blah, 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 because up until this point, he's already had the entire flash forward structure and flashes before your eyes. He was literally, his conscious was literally jumping back through time in the constant and barely survived. So he does clearly know who Daniel is, even though, funnily enough, like they only actually met once in person before the constant, I should say, which was back in The Economist when they brought him to the helicopter and he went on the helicopter to get to the Kahana. And so Desmond has some familiarity with Faraday. And
whether
so
he
as a
knows
result,
it or not, he does.
right, when he has the dream that turns out to be a memory that was just recently made because of the time-wimey mechanics, the fact that he saw Daniel and knows who he is and knows that Daniel saved his life previously means that he knows that this is not just some random dream. He's like, this is an omen, a portent from the island. He's like, whatever it is, I need to go. I need to be involved somehow.
Yeah, it's like we saw everyone. We saw Sun catching up with Whitmore. They're gonna try and kill Ben, apparently, which is gonna be a conflict of interest for sure.
It's gonna be a little bit, to say the least.
I'm excited to see how. For once, I'm like as excited for off island as on island because before this has been like, okay, they're on the even last season. Okay, they're on the boat, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening on the island, and you get maybe like one cool boat episode for every like three kind of medium boat episodes, and now it's like it's full momentum. It's like you said, we're third act of the show. We're in the end game now, which clearly they the writers of Endgame saw this.
And writers of Endgame really
I rewatched
Lost.
Winter Soldier just because I wanted to, and at the end, one of the like board people is Whitmore, the actor. I was like,
Whitmore.
He's really familiar, like,
yep.
and then there you go. So again, it's just I'm excited to see where when the island goes, where it goes, and how it all wraps up. Like, okay, if I give my prediction now, they will manage to sort of get control of the time shifts, and then through some machinations, they will align the island to when the off-island stuff is happening, and things will merge. But the last episode is called The Incident, so it can't be anything good.
It can't be. Listen, if there's one thing that you've learned from the show, it's that nothing ever goes according to plan. You know, Locke and Desmond tried to let the timer go out, and then they realized, oh shit, we're gonna like accidentally cause an explosion, and then them causing the explosion and the swan ultimately, leads to the events of everything else that happens. They try to have Naomi call the freighter to get them rescued, and then everything that happens in season 4 happens. Ben moves the island. Now the shit. Nothing on this show ever goes according to plan. So yeah, safe to say that part of your prediction will go correctly, but
it's always part. I never get it fully correct.
You always get it partially of the way around. Although, like I said, you did. I'm still going back to all the way back to season 3 when you predicted basically the plot lines for the next 3 seasons. So, like I said, we're involved in the time travel now, and like you said, I think really the reason why the off-island stuff for the first time is as compelling as the on-island stuff, even though we didn't get as much focus, those were kind of like used interspersed throughout as like the flash forward, flashback structure that Lost has become so well known for, is because we're just as involved in the characters off-island now, because what's happening off-island is happening in the present and not like in the past or in the future or anything like that. It's become just as important, where even though we're watching 2 different timelines simultaneously, both sets of characters are characters that we're invested with, and because we know kind of that both of them are present, both of them are just as important, because we know that both of these major storylines that are being set up here are eventually going to merge. We have just as much equal stake and investment in both of them. And so that's why, both storylines are going to be just as important this season.
Yeah, I guess I want to do my quick tangent on why time travel stories are so like my thing. Because my 3 favorite movies in Letterboxd are Arrival, Back to the Future, and About Time, which is like they all have some time travel in them.
Yes.
So I think it's people ending up in times when they're not supposed to, and what problems and opportunities that creates. But I think the more so thing is the impermanence of it. Like, you only get like X amount of time here, and Lost already clearly understands that, because in the opening scenes, like you can't. There are rules. You can't change the past. Or Faraday even says to Sawyer, like we no matter what you try, you'll fail. What you change. So it's that impermanence of like, you only get this amount, and then however much you try to stay or change things, you just can't. And if you do, it's going to end horribly. So I guess it's that also that it's not really time travel, but it's more multiverse. In season 2 of Arcane, the episode where Echo,
Yep.
Echo,
The best episode of Arcane.
The clear best episode. It's that show's constant. Every show has their constant, apparently.
Every show has,
which I'm now realizing that episode is clearly inspired by the constant, at least like a bit. Maybe not like
it all goes back to Lost.
Maybe not directly, but the way it's grown has definitely infected it. It's that.
Real quick, Faraday saying that to Sawyer. Pay attention to that specifically, because that is going to come back. Because like I said, this season very much so, in addition to many things, is very much making up for kind of the characters who we didn't get to spend as much time with, because last season was so focused on the Oceanic Six and Ben that this season is going to be making up for lost time. So we get to spend a little bit more time with Locke, but Sawyer gets a lot of focus this season. And the fact that Faraday says that everything happening with time travel is impermanent, the fact that he says that to Sawyer of all people is going to play a major part throughout this season.
Right. And I guess it's that in your heart, this isn't how things are supposed to go. You don't belong here. And then you have to make those tough decisions. So 11/22/63 is like probably the best example of this whole thing. So yeah, I don't think there's no way that this season is going to be my favorite of the lot. So I guess we'll see what develops on and off island.
Yeah, once we got into this section of the show, like going forward with once we started covering like the second half of the show this year, started with season 4. Like season 4 was my favorite because that's the most action heavy for sure, and it felt like the most like consequence heavy. But this season, in terms of like once we got into the time travel aspect and knowing that this was going to be the time travel season, I'm like, oh, Luke's really gonna dig season 5. Like of all of the seasons, it's gonna make it even more interesting once we get into the next season, and where they basically just take the complete opposite approach to the storytelling. Like, oh man, you thought the flashbacks and the flash forwards were crazy? Wait till we get into the flash side. I'm gonna leave it there. Oh,
what the hell does that mean?
Oh yes.
Am I gonna be watching Sawyer in one thing and then it's gonna cut to another Sawyer doing completely something else? Like,
to be determined is all that I will say to that. And with that being said, I couldn't think of a better spot to end our recap of Lost season 5 premiere, because you left. Oh man, we've got so much still that we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering this throughout the summer. We've got so much stuff that we're still doing. Eli and I are still recapping The Boys for its final 3 weeks on Wednesdays. And then we have a release date for House of the Dragon. June 21st is when Eli and I will be recapping that. I'm still putting out my old Talkin Thrones videos from back in the day. I'm finally re-releasing those on video once on YouTube, once a week on Friday. So be sure to tune into that. Kristen and I reviewed Devil Wears Prada 2 yesterday, and we'll be having some sort of a summer movie review season. We're not going to hit every big movie this summer because, no offense, I don't feel like dedicating a full hour to talking about Mortal Kombat 2. I don't. I'm sorry. That that doesn't have enough that warrants a discussion, but we will be covering a decent amount of the summer movies, especially once we get into June. And like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We still got so much more stuff coming out throughout the summer. Luke, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs? Where in time can they find you?
Hopefully the future at this point. I just need to make it to the future to see how Lost ends.
Oh man, that's true.
Look, reviews on YouTube, but now with Lost, I'm like, this is the thing. This is the greatest thing of all time that's ever been made. So
you're like, this is the greatest thing I could have possibly ever been involved with.
Yeah.
You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Subscribe to us if you're watching us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film. And get lost in time. We'll see you guys next week.